Oh.
Said that she was vetting and everything, did everybody wear the mask?
Well, that didn't last very long. Nobody wore a mask.
Our COVID task force said that, so.
I feel healthy. In the school required to wear a mask. I found it first. It's not a big deal. Although I don't understand why my tissue. Nobody's anything. And I hate the stereotype in well, I've been wearing these. Dennis, everything left, I have my glasses. And now they're making my.
Okay, it's running a minute and it takes forever.
That's
So that's actually not.
She's from London? Yes, she is.
So
where are you, north side, east? West?
It's the southeast.
Southeast specifically? Bromley. Okay, got it here for a few years.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's cool. That's wonderful. But we met at Jillian Fabrics, because I needed help picking out the fabric that I got with the other day for the rabbit. And she's the one that helped me. Oh, she was familiar. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hi.
How's it going?
Well, it's going. No, it's going. We're having one of those days.
Good.
Not done with it. How are you doing?
We really just opened up about 3 weeks ago.
And unfortunately, our rabbi is not here, but Dennis is here. So. But Dennis will be there.
I'll grab a book. Maybe we should.
Yeah, so
Right, yeah, exactly.
We're on the way. Turn the ball around. You're not going to the Hebrew tonight, so we're not reading.
watch it.
Because Hebrew goes right to left, and, this way, English goes this way. And so this is Hebrew, and then this is a transliteration of the pronouncing, so.
Isn't that crazy? She's the one that I asked her.
Sophia?
Yes. During the,
I'm still trying to get the whole service thing.
So the guitar's a little loud.
Okay.
bar food.
I just adjusted. Is this a good? Is this a good?
This should be fine, yeah. I can make this work.
Yeah. I'm just saying the guitar's a little loud.
Oh,
But beyond that, I'm fine.
I can try to play quieter. I don't know
Just
how.
whatever you want. I'll screw with it in there.
Thank you.
I'm just letting you know that. I'm gonna play it here. It goes up first.
Okay.
I'll play it.
That's when we turn on Facebook or what we drive. I had to turn it down. Okay, so, all right. Oh, I guess you're sitting together. You gonna shower then, Janice? What? You gonna shower and how to read? So. You. Yeah. I can't believe you're here. It's just so weird.
That's eerie.
Yeah, this is fun. Okay, make sure I've got names here. It's
Austin and Julia. And we're still new. I just converted like 3 weeks ago. All right, if you can show me, yeah, if you can walk me through.
Austin Powers.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of songs that we do on a regular basis, if there are things you prefer that have me sing, you can just go ahead and read through it. That's totally fine.
Okay. Well, this is going to be fun because I suspect I'm probably going to be on the beam at least 2 or 3 more times before I comes back. I just have to see what my schedule is because I have to live solidly in Cleveland for 2.5 weeks here while my son and daughter-in-law are there. So I get to babysit the little ones. Fun.
Yeah, we gotta-
Yeah, let's go.
I'm going to have that forever now. I'm always going to have your.
I need your name. It's calling Melina.
What, we moved in here? Yes.
Well, of course, the allowed to stop you,
I actually, converted, she helped, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So you're really
No, I was.
She was on the other side of the
I was
bushes.
on the other side of the bushes. I was the baby.
Rabbi let me jump in. Yeah, well, I am now going through trying to learn the ropes and circles and stuff now. I try to stay correct. They wouldn't let us hide on the back.
You don't allow that. You
Yeah.
know, when I'm lecturing with my baptisms, you're in the baptism, or whatever. Yeah, we don't miss you. It's good for Christmas.
That's it. No.
I started juniors and awards in high school. Seniors, college.
Oh, yeah.
So I made my class work.
Oh. Yeah, she was super supportive. She is very nice. She have so
Yes.
very different.
Oh, you want to tell the biology in church? Let's see.
Very.
I was still in like elementary and high school, so of course I didn't pay attention, so.
Well, my first 3 years of elementary school, in Catholic school, you know, I still have scars from being hit by the moon and being told that I was the tool of Satan. They were absolutely right.
My Catholic school is about my school.
Sister Mary Rosette. The reason today that I write with my right hand, I do more than
Do you procedures with Dublin.
So how's it?
Nice. Oh, yeah. Triathlete. I'm a triathlete.
I don't know
So
what
it feels
happens
safe.
if something happens. I don't know.
I worked out with actually for that,
I think you.
in Meadville, September 14th, we don't have services. And my trainer wanted to, I said, well, before I go down there and humiliate myself, I better find out who's 60 and up. I mean, I've been doing this for, gosh, a year and a half now. And, so, I mean, I work out basically, and I walk around. But this will be the first meet. Then we talk about being a.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome. So we have some people here. We are inside here today, and obviously we are also online. So we welcome people both here and online. And Dennis will be doing the service today. As we know, Rabbi is gone. So welcome, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
No, I'm not a rabbi and I don't play one on TV. It's kind of strange. This is the first time on the Bema now for about maybe 16 or 17 months since before the pandemic. And it's kind of strange being back, but it's also very nice to be back as well. One of the perspectives that we have of the pandemic is that we see sometimes the absolute worst in people, and other times we see the absolute best in people. For those of us in healthcare, it is unusual for us to actually see it in the same individual. So, of course, this means Vidmar is about to lead into a real-world story. Tales from University Circle, Cleveland. I work at a large medical center, so I was signing on, and blip, message comes up. Okay, Dr. Vidmar, you've got a notification. All right. So I open it up and I see Mr. So-and-so passed on. And immediately the name just kind of sent a spike right through my skull. And I said, oh yeah, I know this guy. In early March, when I had him in for just a routine outpatient visit, he had a complex dermatitis. He was immunosuppressed with 2 drugs that I was giving him, and he had a lot of comorbidities. He had blood pressure issues, diabetes issues, and heart issues, and Lord knows what else. So obviously a priority to get vaccinated. At our institution, we were very, very actively vaccinating people with Pfizer at that point. So I said, you know, we need to get you vaccinated because you are the poster child for somebody who's going to have some real problems. So he then launched into a tirade about he doesn't want any socialized medicine or any experimental vaccine. Fine. So I knew where I was going with that. His wife, who was in the exam room at the same time, was just kind of shaking her head. She had been vaccinated. I said, is there anybody else in the home? And he said, yes, my 26-year-old daughter, recently divorced, is now back in the home. But she's checked for COVID regularly and I never go out. Long story short, got sick, admitted to the hospital, spent 2 weeks on a ventilator and died a very nasty death. The contact tracers figured out that the daughter was the one who brought it home because she's a school teacher in Ashtabula County. Never bothered getting vaccinated because it was a socialist plot. So she was barely symptomatic. She brought it home. She killed her father. Plain, pure, and simple. COVID tests are only a snapshot in time. They don't tell you what's happening 5 minutes later. So that's obviously a tragedy. However, some good did come of it. About 2 weeks later, I got a call from her and said, Dr. Vidmar, I just want to thank you for at least trying to get my father vaccinated. I know he wasn't receptive to it, and quite frankly, if I had been in the office with my mother and him, I would have argued with you about it. But I now see that I was absolutely, totally wrong and that I've been lied to. And now I'm out there. And in fact, she did. She was able to change the minds of her whole Southern Baptist congregation in Ashtabula County. So they descended en masse to the Ashtabula County Medical Center over about a 2 to 3 week period, and virtually everybody in that congregation was vaccinated. So just some thoughts. The worst in people, the best in people, and sometimes in the same individual. Like this. We're going to have an opening song.
We're going to start with Maya Fehayom on page 10. Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
I'd like to continue in the middle of page 6 responsively. After the past 16 to 17 months, I think this really speaks to all of us. Responsively by paragraph. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
I'd like to call to the bema Austin and Julia. Austin, AKA the man of mystery. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and
Oh, no, you can look at it. Just when we're ready. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Top of page 10. Again, something that kind of calls out to us after this pandemic. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yahad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yahad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yahad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Lachadodi. We'll continue with Lachadodi on page 20. We'll do verses 1, 2,
And 9.
and 9. Okay, so no 5. Okay. 1, 2, and 9. That's page 20.
Lecha dodi
Likrat kala
P'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lecha dodi Likrat kala P'nei Shabbat Nekabela Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad Hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad V'shemu tiferet v'litila Lecha dodi Likrat kala P'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lecha dodi Likrat kala P'nei Shabbat Nekabela Likrat Shabbat Lechu Benelcha Ki Makor HaBeracha Merosh Mikerem Nesucha Sof Ma'aseh V'machshava Techila Lecha dodi Likrat kala P'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lecha dodi Likrat kala P'nei Shabbat Nekabela Bo'i v'shalom ateret ba'ala Gam b'simcha u'b'tzola Toch emunei absegula Bo'i kala Bo'i kala Lecha dodi Likrat kala P'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lecha dodi Likrat kala P'nei Shabbat Nekabela
Nala Shevet, please be seated. Okay, for our guests who may be worshiping for the first time tonight, you're probably wondering what that was all about. Do they do this in Bramling? Not just no, but heck no. Okay, so what that was all about is when we see the Sabbath coming, the Sabbath is kind of a metaphorical bride. So in honor of that bride, we stand as the Sabbath bride walks in. So now you know. All set. Hatzikadash on page 26. Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei rabba.
Amen.
Ilma divrach rutei ve'amlik malchutei b'chayekonu v'yomekon u'chaye dechol beit Yisrael bagala ubizman kariv v'maru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorak leolam olamei almaya Yitbarak, Yitbarak v'yishtabak, v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal, Shemei Kudusha,
Barichu.
Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, v'maru amen. Okay, for the Baruch. Please rise for the Baruch. Page 28.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed. Please be seated. What we did until now was just kind of like leading up to it. This is the official opening of the service right now with the Baruch Hu. And in liturgy, in Friday night liturgy, we have the Ma'ariv Aravim, which is a prayer that talks about the majesty of God, the changing of the seasons. And it's quite appropriate. And what I would recommend to you sometime when we have Shabbat at the beach, think about it. One of the very first times I had to be a lay leader in a military situation, I was on an aircraft carrier and I was out there, and guess what? Perfect timing for the Ma'ariv Aravim. Sun goes down. Doesn't get better than that. So Ma'ariv Aravim, page 30. Together in Hebrew, please. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvitfana mishenei itim, umachalif et chazamanim, umsader et hakokavim, v'mishmerotekem barkia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai Tsevaot Shemo, El Chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Do you want to do Ahavat Olam? Sure. Go ahead. Page 32, Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Amcha Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadata Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu Kumeinu nasiach bechukecha V'nishma b'divrei Toratecha U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Uvahem negei yomam v'layla Negei yomam v'layla Me'ahavatcha tasir Mimenu le'olamim Baruch Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Please rise for the Shema on page 34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu
Adonai Echad, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. For those of you from Christian backgrounds, you may notice something there. Credo in unum Deum. Guess where the Christians got it from? It's from them. Okay, we continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'divarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha v'aderech, u'shachbecha uv'kumecha, ופשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Together in the middle of page 36. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign on your hand. Let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. Our Lord, our God, is truth. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 38. Emet ve'umana zo kol zot v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'en zulato ve'anachnu Yisrael amo. In the middle of page 39, responsively by paragraph. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again, we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, It has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Oseh feleh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? When Moses and the children crossed the sea, they sang to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh.
The section in liturgy, the Mi Chamocha, obviously celebrates our crossing, whether it was physically or metaphorically or spiritually. Red Sea, Suf. And for the benefit of Austin, a new member of the tribe, this is the oldest section of the Torah. Linguistically, there's several songs, so-called, in Torah, but this is thought to be the oldest. Song of Miriam. Page 42. Hashkivinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomorenu l'chaim ufros aleinu sukat shlemecha v'taknenu be'etzah tova milfanecha v'hoshienu lama'an shemecha. Let there be love and understanding among us, top of page 43. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Together in Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beni uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Top of 45. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens to all of us, all of the time. Please rise for Tefillah, page 46.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chazdei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevih Geula Livnei V'neihem L'man Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah.
Page 50.
Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Torah V'Hoshia Morid Hatah Mechakel Chaim Bechesed Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha ba'al kevurot umidomela melech memit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh kadoshim b'chol yom yahalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
Please continue the Amida silently, standing or in a whisper, or sitting, as is your custom.
Sure.
Page 57.
בעמך ישראל ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל ישראל עמך אל קרוב לך קרב פני אל עבדיך וחננו שפוך רוחך עלינו ותחז עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון
Page 58. Modim anachnu lach sha'atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu magenu shenu atahu lador vador. Middle of page 59 together. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the
the moon and stars that you set in place.
What are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, ato shimcha ucha na'eh lahodot.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha. Page 60. Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha. Tasim leolam. Ki ata umelech adon. Lecho hashalom, ki ata melech adon, lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amecha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
Top of page 61, together. Grant us peace, your most precious gift,
O
O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavarech et amo Yisrael hashalom. Who say shalom bimromav 62. Oh, yeah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, v'imru, amen. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Imru, amen. We continue with the Mishnah Barak on page 253. God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Leah, and Rachel, send your blessing to the following friends and family members who are in need of healing and comfort. Greg Bennett, Michael Biren, Andrea Kempner Blake, Scott Gordon, Patricia Heibel, Michelle Wolf, Rebecca Gottlieb, Julian Howell, David Spenter, Zachary Jackson, Carol Love, Dane Marcinowski, Bob Bush, Molly Wolf, Burko Travatsky, Bruce Harrell, Jim Hahn, Fran Porras, Timothy Teilman, Lorraine Wellington, Matea Press, Deborah Susan, Darlene Sharp, Cecily Gingrich, and Cora Harper. If you have a name to add to the Mishnah Barak list, please say the name as my eyes meet yours. Helene Rubel and Estelle Russ in the UK.
Yisheberak avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So I don't know whether this was divine providence or just pure darn luck. So I actually had to do a Devar Torah for Parshat Chukat back in 2016. And for those of you that were here, I had my grandson on the bima with me. This little squirt, who was then 10 years old, is now 6'3.5". And I asked him if he wanted to come to Erie to be on the bima and help me tonight. And he said, well, Saba, grandfather, I won't be able to make it to Erie before Shabbat, Neo-Orthodox family, etc. So I understand that. So Ben, I know you're not listening out there, but you can get me on Zoom perhaps at the end of Shabbat tomorrow night. This one's for you, Ben. So the Parshat is Chukat. So Chukat obviously is the plural of the word chok. So what's chok? What's a chok? The commandments, the 613 mitzvot that we have, are divided into two different parts. There's the, thank you. The mitzvot that we have in the Torah, the 613 of them, are divided into two parts. There's the chokim, or the chukat, and there's the mishpatim. The mishpat is a commandment in which there is a rational basis. No, don't murder people, don't hurt people, don't steal, be kind, be a mensch, you know? This just kind of makes sense. And then there's the chok, a commandment for which there is no rational explanation. So this parshat probably takes its name after the commandment here of the red heifer, the enigmatic laws of purity regarding the red heifer. But you know what? We're not going to talk about that, but I just wanted to let you know why the parsha is named that. So what are the main themes here? The laws of the red heifer, which I just mentioned. Whose ashes purify a person who's been contaminated by contact with a corpse? And what's really funny about this is the person who does the decontaminating by sprinkling the paste that's made with the red heifer's ashes becomes contaminated himself or herself. So cooties, so to speak. Another main theme here is after 40 years, the people finally arrive in the wilderness of Zin. Moses and Aaron didn't ask instructions. Miriam was telling them, ask instructions, ask for directions, but no, they didn't. They're guys. So you wonder for 40 years. In this parshat, Miriam dies and the people thirst. God tells Moshe to speak, is the Hebrew for that, to a rock and to command it to give water. However, Moses is a pretty hot under the collar with the rebellious Israelites because they're complaining, they're kvetching. So rather than asking the rock nicely, he strikes it, not just once, but twice. Water flows, but Moses is told that because of this bit of insolence, neither he nor Aaron will enter the promised land. The parsha continues. Aaron dies at Hor Harar and is succeeded by his son Elazar. Venomous snakes attack after yet another insurrection. Yes, I will use that term of discontent in which people speak against God and Moses. God tells Moses to place a brass serpent, some say copper serpent, upon a high pole, and all who gaze heavenward at this symbol will be healed. The people then sang a song of thanks for the miraculous well that provided them water in the desert. And the last theme is that Moses leads the people in battles against the Amorites who sought to prevent Israel's passage to conquer their lands which lie east of the Jordan. Okay. So how about a little bit of Torah here? This is Numbers 21, verse 4. Vayisu machar ha'ar derek yom suf. Lisivov et eretz adam. V'tik katzar nefesh ha'am ba'derek. They set out from Mount Hor by way of the Sea of Reeds to skirt, just right at the edge of the land of Edom, but the people grew restive on the journey. Read. They were a little bit angry. Vaydaber ha'am ba'Elohim uv Moshe laman ha'elitunu mimitzrayim lamut b'midbar ki ein lechem ve'ein mayim v'nafshenu katza b'lechem haklokem. And the people spoke against God and Moses. Why did you make us leave Egypt to die in the wilderness, for heaven's sakes? There's no bread, no water. We have come to loathe this miserable food, the miserable food being manna. So here they are, otherwise starving, but they're complaining. Oh, this is so boring. We get the same thing every day. Oh, geez. Manna again? So God's not very happy about that. Vayishlach Adonai ba'am et hanachashim hasarafim vayinashchu et ha'am v'yamat am rav miYisrael. The Lord sent seraph serpents, fiery, against the people. They bit the people, and many of the Israelites died. Vayavo ha'am el Moshe v'yomeru Chatanu, like we say at Yom Kippur, we have sinned. Chatanu ki dabarnu ba'adonai v'vach. Hatit palel ein Adonai v'yaser ma'alenu et chanachash v'tit palel Moshe ba'ad ha'am. The people came to Moses and said, we have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Please intercede with the Lord to take away the serpents from us. And Moses interceded for the people. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, aseh lecha saraf v'sim oto al nes v'haya kol hanachshuch v'ra'a oto v'chai. And the Lord said to Moses, make a seraph figure, flaming figure, and mount it on a standard. And if anyone who is bitten who looks at it, he shall recover. Vayas Moshe nachash nachoshet, vaysimechu al hanes, v'haya im nashech hanashach et ish, v'habit el nachash hanashet v'chai. Moses made a copper serpent, some people say bronze, and mounted it on a standard, on a pole. And when anyone was bitten by a serpent, he would look at the copper serpent and recover. Okay. So what do we as 21st century Jews make of this? So snakes, not my favorite animal. I had close encounters of the worst kind with the rattlesnake in Boy Scouts as well as in the field with the military. So yeah, not fun. Fiery serpents are thought by most scholars to be fiery in color and fiery in bite. Not that I can tell you from personal experience, snake bites hurt and they burn. I'm not going to volunteer to see if I can qualify that. Fiery in color. There is a viper in the land of Israel in the Levantine that is very fiery in color. It's red, gold, yellow, very highly decorated snake. So maybe this was actually a historical description of a snake that was there even back then. But what is a brazen serpent or a bronze serpent? Is it live that Moses put on a pole? Was it dead, or was it fashioned of copper, or more likely of brass? Well, it said to Moses, go away and make one. So I don't think he made a snake. I don't think that was in his job description. But why a bronze snake effigy on a staff to allow survival of those who got bitten? Symbolism of snakes in the Levantine world and in fact, in all cultures. In Egypt, the snake was a symbol of fertility, rebirth, renewal, and even immortality. One of their minor gods in ancient Egypt, Wadjet, is a snake-headed goddess wrapped around a single pole, associated with healing and protection. Sound like a caduceus, maybe, in modern times? In ancient Sumerian culture, we're talking about 23rd century BCE, so this is like well before the time of the Exodus, and certainly well before Torah was redacted. Fertility god I can't transliterate Sumerian, so give me a break here. Ningizida, there we go. Sometimes depicted as a serpent with a human head, eventually became known as a god of healing. Fair enough. Bronze snake, but why bronze? Is it again a reference to a historical color of snakes in the Middle East? Or was it because bronze, or copper for that matter, was expensive and that it was associated with symbols of power, like weapon making, or that of royalty and monarchy? Looking upon the snake allowed those bitten not to die. However, Midrash, okay, for those of you that don't know, Midrash is just later explanations of the rabbis centuries and centuries after Torah was written. Midrashim indicate that those bitten still suffered, and they suffered horribly, but they did survive. Those who looking upon the snake did not negate their need to suffer while repenting for their sin of pride and arrogance. So where am I going with this? The fate of the bronze serpent. Stay tuned. Part of the paraphernalia associated with the Ark of the Covenant and later the temple in Jerusalem, the bronze serpent that was on that staff became part of the furniture. It became a historical marker and a reminder of deliverance. So the bronze serpent, however, over the centuries, started to become revered in its own right, rather than just a symbol. Far more than its original purpose. In the second book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 4, mentions that during the religious zealotry of King Hezekiah, one of the final kings of Judah before the Babylonian conquest, the bronze serpent was destroyed in addition to all of the other idols. So that's interesting. A symbol that had been long in the temple, Hezekiah said, it's gotten too big for its boots, as the British would say. So that was it. It was done. So what's this all about? Most of my Devar Torahs, I end with quotes that I kind of put in my head from Frank Vidmar, my dad, Alav HaShalom. Died at age 44, but a pretty wise guy. Wise man. In the immortal words of Frank Vidmar, so why should I care? So, okay, Dad, here's why you should care. During a crisis, we need to look upon legitimate objects of symbol of hope to survive, even though the pain and suffering continues. We certainly have had reminders of this during pandemic and all the social craziness that we have seen around us. And also, Dad, why should you care? Because we shouldn't worship symbols for their own sake. Remember what they represent. And with all thanks to Sefaria.org for having a very nice font and appropriate size that I could read it. Okay. Our service continues on page 282. 282 with the Aleinu. Please rise for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula le'otzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, Umishtabavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Page 284.
Uhunote shamayim ve'osed haaretz, umoshav yikaro b'shamayim imal, ushchinatu zo, v'govhei meromim, hu Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu efezuloto, kakatu b'torato, Ve'adata hayom behashavota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, b'shamayim imal, ba'aretz mitochat einod.
Einod. Middle of page 285. Al ken nekaveh laka Adonai Eloheinu lirot b'hera b'tiferet uzecha v'taken olam b'malchut Shaddai. Together in English. Adonai our God, how
soon we hope to behold the perfection of our world, guided by a sacred covenant drawn from human and divine meaning.
Nemar
V'haya Adonai. 287.
Melech al kol haaretz
Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo
echad. Please be seated. Page 289. Since the last time I was on the Bima here, I lost my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, one of Amy's uncles, Amy's dear cousin Daphne. A lot has happened in that time, and I'm sure it has for you as well. Now, for our visitors from the UK, your country has suffered a lot. I have good friends in the UK, just had a VTC with Karina Jackson in County Kent this morning. And you guys are now in the Delta wave. And we are just getting started with it. So believe me, we understand. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candle's life is kindled, it burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty, but it soon fades, the substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full, but as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory, slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, and those have died at this season in years past, page 295. And those with whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We're in Shloshim this week for Lazar Cholsky, father of Alex Sherman and the late Nina Sherman, Karen Levick Carter, sister of Dick and Sharon Levick, and daughter of the late Phil and Ruth Levick. Are there any others to add to the list for Shloshim or otherwise? This Shabbat, we commemorate the art sites of Frank Gosch, Emmanuel Cohen, Jacob Berliner, Irene Rudolph, Samuel Rabinowitz, Dora Moses, Ruth Hanauer Zaks, Harry Silver, Selena Cohen, Bertha Schuster, Henry Schaffner, Jacob Silverstein, Jack Raskind, Harry Gerson, Nathan Spitzer, Sidney Rhine, Rose Brown, Leonard Brown, Bessie Bloomberg, Jeffrey Mortimer Sobel, and David Ronis, my brother-in-law. Are there any other names to add to the art site list? Please say the name and stand and recite it if you would, please. Thank you. Thinking about them, their lives, what they mean to us. We rise together for the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yet Gadal v'yet Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'zman kari v'maru amen. Yehesh Shemei Rabbah mevarak le'olam alamei almaya. Yet barak v'yishtabak v'yitha'ar v'yithramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei d'kusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronon levracha. May their memories be for a blessing to all. Please be seated. Announcements.
Okay, first of all, services this weekend are in memory of Harry W. Silver and Bessie Bloomberg. May their memory always be for a blessing. There's Torah study. Do you know who's running Torah study? Dennis. So you get to see Dennis and hear him again. So what a treat. Definitely tune in for Torah study tomorrow morning. There's a link that you got in the weekly newsletter or that you can do to attend Torah study. And on Monday, you get to schmooze with me at 7 p.m. if you want to. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
We're going to close with Od Yavo Shalom on page 353. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam. Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
We'll round out Shabbat by having Yiddish and some bread. Craig, would you come up and help do the honors? Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Amen.
It's the best cough syrup money will buy. For those of us who have to live our lives in N95 masks, it really helps your voice.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. And for those of you back in the AV booth, hey, that's you guys. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful job, and thank you, Jessica. Dig in. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.